ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here, Brian cutting right into the broadcast. I was waiting for the intro to play, but how you doing?
The parachute did not deploy. We are all dead on impact. It's all right. We're here. We're podcasting.
Brian does some incredible stuff. He's got some incredible content coming for you guys,
including we're back on YouTube right now until it explodes. To be determined. We're trying to see if this still works again, so you can watch us anywhere you want.
Yes, on YouTube, on Twitch. Feel free to please chime in. Let us know how it's going. Let us know the audio is going. Check us out both places. Obviously Twitch. If you're watching us on Twitch, you got the subscribe button where you can give us some Jeff Bezos money. We always appreciate that. But yeah,
I think people should open two windows and stream both the Twitch and the YouTube at once. I think that's the optimal way to watch the show. Try that.
Boost those numbers. Welcome in, guys. John, how you doing, my friend? Hope your weekend was splendid.
I think it was. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I watched a lot of soccer. It was pretty fantastic from that. It was rainy on Saturday, and then Sunday was just El Dia de football. What about you?
I won't lie. I was kind of excited on Friday because I was like, there's no Champions Cup. There's no MLS. I can just chill out.
Soccer break.
Play some games. Relax a little bit tonight. I played some Cyberpunk 2077, trying to get to the new expansion pack there, trying to check that out. I was very much enjoying that. And then it was right back into soccer. I did a live watch along. And then I was going to watch Miami Montreal, but I was like, I'm going to take a nap. I'm feeling and we got a whole other team that's going to kick off their season. We'll get to that later in the show. But overall the weekend was good. A lot of soccer on, certainly to watch that. We've got the Messi Circus coming to DC. I won't really experience it here in Lynchburg, but you might experience it a little bit out there in
Stafford.
In Stafford.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close. You're closer. You're physically closer than me. So
I'm gonna see like Messi caravans on 95, just like people honking horns for 40 miles.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see. We'll get into that in a little bit about whether he actually plays or not, or what the status is there.
Hopefully you've all sold your tickets already. Hopefully your scalp tickets have been scalped already, is all I'm gonna say.
Yep. All right, let's get into it. Let's start talking DC. DC United 0-0 draw against FC Cincinnati. Let's start from a result perspective. Great result. No Benteke, no Tekuti Pietro. Pietro was on the bench. Apparently did something in training. Becoming maybe a little bit of a worrying trend at this point with him. Health was a concern last year. I'm not so concerned about Benteke's 33. He's going to pick up knocks. He's going to pick up injuries. I understand that, but Tekuti Pietro is 22. Having him out and missing games really stunts this team. So it's certainly a moment for concern. But the team did go out and get a result.
And Benteke has been an Iron Man for this club so far, so that he's had a little bit of a groin situation is one not to be worried about. But I think Ted, following the tradition of other young players who have caught the injury bug early, and it took them a while to figure out what they needed to do to stay on the field. So hopefully it was a one-time thing. I think that they were taking precautions. I think when they look at this game that we had, and then also the one at home against Miami, I think there's one they want to show for a little bit better. So I think being cautious with your assets is probably a good idea, and it might play out exactly as they hoped.
Yeah, hopefully it does. I certainly would love to have a moment like Montreal had this weekend against Inter Miami. Game was, I don't think this was a game that will live in the memories, maybe in Alex Bono's memory, because he was fantastic. But I think for the rest of us, it's kind of going to be one of those games. It really wasn't a whole lot. It was kind of an ugly game, I think, in most respects. DC really, I really struggle to sort of remember, like, yes, there were a couple long range chances. I think Click had a nice look from distance. Mural had a nice look from distance, but really offensively, not a whole lot from this game. And maybe I'm going to kind of bring down the mood. Let me just state the result's great. I think with the injuries and everything like that, vibes are still good. Vibes are still high. I think maybe this game, looking back on it, though, I'm going to have some critiques, particularly, I think mostly at the front three. I just don't think either one of them really were that good. Front four, I should say, Tahome, Mural. Hopkins maybe looked a little bit better, but didn't really show much. And obviously the continued saga of Gabriel Pirani just not looking like a number 10. So
I just want to say on that, everybody, welcome to the bandwagon. You can all have seats in the back. I'm driving the train. That's okay. It's okay. I think there's not a lot to, I mean, we'll walk through the game. There's not a lot to dissect. There's only so much you can talk about in a 0-0 draw where shots were at a premium, at least quality chances. I think there there weren't a lot of moments of real danger. I have in here like Dahomey is entirely useless back to goal. So they need to really, when they're stuck into a situation, I think we actually, I had a DM during the game from Matt Doyle saying, boy, is it some galaxy brain stuff to play two wingers as you're pressing forwards and have have Merrill in the back, like in the central midfield. He's like, that's interesting. That's a move. I don't really get it from the standpoint of you can't play the same style when you don't have Benteke, when Dahomey is your option B. He is about a foot and a half shorter. He is a lot less strong. His talons are not that. Dahomey is a winger. That's what he is. Jammed into a number 9, you're gonna get play like you saw. He was not dangerous. This was he was much more dangerous against Portland. And I think FC Cincinnati is just a lot better defensively. So that could be a little bit to do with it. But Pirani is going to be a major conversation point.
Yeah,
I think for us, I think it's going to be a major conversation point for all the fans, and we actually have literal questions about it. So I guess I won't get into it too much. But it's you gotta when you lose your top scoring option, you're in trouble. When you lose your top 2 scoring options, you're in more trouble. When your number 10 is absolutely no threat in any kind of way whatsoever, you've got a really big problem.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into Pirani, and I think I want to get into this question. I think this is from Esberg.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, I want to get to Esberg over in Discord. It's like, who would you have it today? Would you take Edison Flores, if you're new to the team, or Gabriel Pirani? I mean, I would still take Gabriel Pirani or Edison Flores. I know, according to you, he's doing pretty well down in Peru.
Very well, exceedingly well.
Yeah, but I think
more points than he had for DC United in his entire career in 5 games in Peru.
Yeah. So I mean, he's doing well. He's home. He's comfortable. I think for him it was certainly a case of bad timing with COVID and a lot of other sort of bad things with the team and where they were at that point. But either way, I'd still take Pirani. Pirani doesn't use up that DP slot. Again, I think this was either they take him or they would have lost him. And maybe it was the better move to lose him, but you can never really know. I still think he's going to get a full run out. I still think you're going to see he's going to get put through his paces before the team tries to cut bait. They might not even cut bait till the end of the season. To be honest, this is really just a year to kind of figure things out and see.
He's not blocking anyone.
Yeah.
The way they have built this team, it's not like there's a young player chomping at the bit who's not getting on the field who could take that spot. They didn't. He is the natural 10. Obviously, Ted DiPietro is one being talked about. Mateus Klick is being talked about as a player that people could see moving higher up the field and being more creative. I don't really think that's where you want to put him. I think where he is right now is where he is most impactful for this. And also, particularly with Knaus not playing, a ball winner of that type is good. You need to have one of them on there. And with the passing range, obviously Peltola has a little bit of that as well. But I would not. You're taking away Klick's best quality to mask a shortcoming on Pirani. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and I think if you put him there, then there's a lot of talk. Knaus apparently is close to returning, and I think it was suggested in some circles. Well, play Knaus and Peltola, and then push Klick up. Klick played a little bit of number 10 when this team started out. Didn't look good. Nope. I think you lose a lot of your effectiveness. Now, again, this team is a little bit of a higher pressing team. Maybe it fits a little bit better, but I just think what he brings in sort of that hybrid 8 spot is very much a connection between sort of the back line and, when the ball's moved centrally. When it's moved to the wings, obviously it's going to go through either Santos or Aaron Herrera. But when it's moved down the middle, you need that kind of player who maybe can sort of, hit across both lines. I thought Klick, honestly, should be shouted out. I think of the field players out there, I thought he was one of the best out there. And just kind of winning the ball in good spots, using that transition. I think the reason it didn't stand out as much is because I think the front four just that they really didn't have much in this game.
Herrera also I think performed pretty well, but to your point, Stroud was mostly anonymous, and he was the player he was hooking up with. He just kept playing the same ball to him, putting him basically at the end line where he had to sort of just like cross it as soon as he could run to the end line, and no one was making runs. I believe Herrera had it was either Herrera or Stroud who had a great early cross on the right-hand side, and neither Dahomey or Pirani made any kind of run, and the ball just rolled across the 6. Would have been probably one of the better like highest XG passes or XA passes of the game, and no one bit. So they're still trying to figure it out. This is not a well-oiled machine. Someone made an excuse for Pirani, which is still valid, and something we also keep in mind is that he is not a player with a full preseason. He was in Brazil the whole time. He's learning a new system with new teammates. And he's young. But someone else said, he's the same age as Ted, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted is managing.
And I want to highlight a moment. I want to highlight a moment from this game that I think sort of exemplifies maybe part of our frustration with him. I think it did sort of develop maybe into a small chance, but there was a moment when I think he got the ball and he has maybe an opportunity where he can maybe run at a guy, go take a guy on the dribble. If Ted's in that position, Ted takes that guy on the dribble. He pushes the ball forward. He wants to go forward. And instead, he kind of gets the ball, does a little bit of drill, maybe beats one guy, and then kind of lays a sort of the high percentage pass over to Click at the time. And then I think that's the one where Click maybe takes a long distance shot, which again, I mean, if that goes in the back of the net, he gets an assist,
right?
But it's not the type of pass. If I'm Lassane, I'm maybe frustrated because, and I think that's just sort of the frustration with, I think personally with Pirani. It's that you see a skill set, you see some skill set there, you see some dribbling ability. There just doesn't appear to be either he's afraid to do it or they need to get him to say, look, I'd rather you maybe try to make that pass or make that dribble than, don't. And, we don't get a chance that we really want. So I don't know. I think I'm going to start. We'll see in the next game if he starts or he plays. But I think if Ted is healthy and fully healthy, we saw in the Portland game how good he looked off that dribble. I would really love to see him kind of tried out at that number 10 spot and maybe shift.
Who would you backfill him with? Who would you put up as the other forward?
As the other, I mean, other forward as far as
yeah. So on the left wing, who would you put? Would you move Pirani to left wing?
I think you maybe try to move him there, see what happens.
He played there. He managed there towards the end of the game. Before he was subbed, I think he subbed off. He didn't go a full 90, right? Yeah, he was subbed off for Fletcher.
60th minute, yeah.
So
Fletcher came on. Fletcher came on for I think Fletcher came on for Hopkins, and then I think actually Antley came in for Pirani, and so Pirani. So it was kind of like we're locking down the game at that point. I'll have to go back. I'm pretty sure that's what happened because I saw the sub and I was like, Pirani, okay. I was hoping to see Ted. I was like, we need Ted in this game. We need somebody.
What do we think about Ted in the 10 and Fletcher starting from the left wing?
I think that's the direction you're heading once you are out of options as far as like whether you can actually play Pirani or not.
Right. So once Pirani figures out one way or the other what he is, if he figures out that he's not, if that's the deal, then I think that particularly if you're not making any other moves until the summer. If it happens between now and the window, yeah, I think that's probably maybe what you do. Quasix on our Discord says, what type of players need to be around Pirani for him to have success? I've been thinking about this one, and it's really hard because we just don't know really what it's like bad when someone's like, what's your strong suit? And you're like, well, I don't really know exactly. I don't really know what you do best. So it's hard to say right now. We don't know. Right now, he is devoid of confidence, which is resulting in a lot of those square balls where you'd be hoping that maybe he would drive towards goal. But I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Maybe ask me again in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Brian Kane dropping from he has so few touches for number 10. Yeah. I think we're going to work on maybe some stats. I think I might commit to in the Miami game if he's out there to actually watching him and just kind of seeing, because I feel like it's a problem. He's invisible. So maybe paying attention to him for a 90 and seeing kind of how he looks, or maybe I'll go back and watch some of this game. The sun made it very difficult. I was doing the live stream. The sun made it very difficult for me to tell who was who in this field. I think defensively, getting back maybe a little bit to the positives. Obviously we talk about Alex Bono. Question also from Esberg, is or should Bono be the number one? I think at this point, yes. I don't see any reason why Miller comes back healthy. I have a
nitpick. I have a nit to pick.
Oh, you have a nit to pick. Okay.
I do.
Pick that nit.
I'll pick that nit. Shot stopping, I think he's very talented. He's reminding me a little bit of a Bill Hamid from this perspective of his distribution and his handling of the ball under pressure is not super great. Tyler Miller's, we're going to put the whole getting chipped out of that was
he won't have to do
tactics.
that this time around.
He won't have to do that. As you notice, Bono is not running up and down the field, so that's out. But his distribution was very, very good. He was very calm on the ball, always. I'm talking about Tyler Miller. You can look back. There was, I don't have it written down what minute it was. It was in the first half where he got put under pressure, and he basically sliced the ball up in the air, like up in the air 20 feet and 5 feet forward. And if not for a little bit of a lucky clearance by DC United, it would have been 1-0 right then. I had looked at his stats earlier to look at his pass completion on long balls. It was like 10% or 12% or 15%. Yeah. It was very low. Not connecting. Obviously he's being told to play the ball long, particularly in the game state that they were in. But I would like to see that improve before I say, like, yeah, he's the number one. We don't need to look anywhere else. He's got the shot stopping down, and like this team, it's always going to be a benefit to have a guy that can pull a rabbit out of a hat if you're on those days where you can't generate chances, and this was one of those. So I would say he is for now, but it's not written in stone for me.
I would say until you see something that, and maybe, again, maybe we see Miller get a run out. I would have said maybe you see him come out for like an open up game and you see how that looks. But we're not competing in that. So neither here.
Also coming back from a rotator cuff for a goalie is probably not an insignificant challenge. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how long it takes him to finally fully recover. I don't remember what FootMob says. I think it might have been June. Not sure. It'll be a while.
Yeah, I think it sounds like he's pretty much locked up. But Bono made 2 great saves. I think
44th minute. I have it even written. 44th minute on Corey Baird, and 84th minute on
Papenza.
Papenza. That was. I think it wasn't a great. It was a good save in that he made it right, but as he dove, he got it shot into his thighs basically from where he was diving. So it wasn't like a full stretch, but it was just like it should have been converted. I think it was like a 2xG chance from where he was sitting, and he couldn't convert it. So you got to make the saves. He made the save.
My goalkeeper coach, when I was very young, used to say, "Is like when you're in the game, doesn't matter. Make the save. It's all that matters. It's all that people talk about. You can worry about form. You can worry about where it is. You make the save. No one cares." I did want to highlight. Obviously, I think Christopher McVeigh had a great game. I thought they did.
Too bad he destroyed Lucas Bartlett and required him to be substituted.
That's something to watch with this team. I think we're seeing the beginnings of sort of the injuries piling up and concerns about depth. I got very worried when Bartlett was not looking healthy, and then they subbed on Akamboni. Not that I don't think Akamboni's a good player. I was just like, this is like not a good situation. He's got to be on it. And he was. I mean, I can't recall really having much to do in this game. And
he didn't.
Yeah, so it wasn't too much from there. I also want to shout out Santos a little bit. I think he was pretty solid defensively. I feel like this was like an improved. Wasn't too much that happened in this game that I can recall where there was like, there was a miss on the left side, or he got beat from the left side. The team really, all the chances really kind of came up from like the middle of the field. I feel like there wasn't a lot that was happening from that wing spot. So, and also Aaron Herrera, again, we talked about solid.
Yeah, man. I am so happy with that signing. That was I think we were a bit concerned about the amount of allocation money that went along with that move to Rouen. Rouen is playing now for Montreal every game. He was a part of a victory in Miami, but it was kind of worried. Like he went from RSL where he was at the top of his game to Vancouver where it didn't work out at all. And you were just kind of wondering what you were going to get. Did he go to was he he was in Montreal, not Vancouver, right?
He was in Montreal, yes.
Montreal, I apologize. And it didn't. It was sort of a mixed outcome. So I was concerned which player we were getting. He's looked great. I mean, I'm going to lose money every week betting on anytime assist for him because he is the danger function. If you get Benteke back in there, he's kind of easy money. But Akamboni, by the way, I just looked at his stats: 22 minutes, 5 for 5 passes, 1 for 1 long balls, 1 interception, and no other stats. So he really didn't have anything to do at all. 6 touches the whole 20 minutes.
Yeah,
we were pressing forward at that point anyway too.
Yeah, really kind of forcing middle. I also thought Matty Peltola had a good game. I need to start with it. I'm pretty sure when he announced it, it's Peltola, but people keep saying Peltola. So
I think we're fine. I think that's that one seems a coin flip. Producer Brian, love this. Feeding us the stats during the game. Peltola is leading the league in tackles right now.
Yeah.
which is not something my eyes would have told me, to be honest with you. Not he says he's much more of a standing tackle guy than a crunching tackle kind of guy.
Yeah.
He is also transparent when he's wearing the white jersey, so you'll have to keep your eyes on the blurring white blob in the middle of the field. You'll find out where he is.
Hopefully the sun won't be too bad and we can actually see the numbers on the back. That was my biggest struggle here. By the way, 13 of 16 on ground duels run according to FootMob on him. So he's
the standing tackle master, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
5 of 8 tackles. I thought he was solid this game. I thought he was, again, just showing, I think just being that sort of number 6 destroyer in the box. It's only going to get better from him, I think, and really, really happy with this signing. I think he has been worth the young designated player spot, especially if we can then use it to parlay it into 2 other, talented U22 slots. I think he's been excellent.
So I have the sub patterns here with Stroud for Fletcher in the 58th, Antley and Akamboni for Bartlett and Pirani in the 67th, and then Hopkins for Murrell in the 77th.
Yeah. What do we think of Jacob Murrell? I thought there were some moments what I liked about Murrell and kind of why I want to see him in that kind of number 9 spot as opposed to like a Dahomey is that he shoots. I feel like he was the one out there. He was one actually trying to take some shots and take some moments. And I think there was one moment they had where I think they got the ball out wide. I believe it was Santos out wide. He cuts in, tries to play a crossover to Fletcher, and Fletcher kind of mishandles it a little bit. I'm just like, man, we really need some guys who can shoot and who can put themselves in spots and kind of be ready for the ball. So
I like him because he's physical and he bangs. And if you have a team built around Christian Benteke, when he's not on the field, it's a lot easier to find someone that can give you 60% of a Benteke than it is to put a player that can give you 0% of Benteke and try to do something different. I think particularly early in the season, it's a lot harder. And I think it will be the entire time. It will be always, obviously, with this roster, honestly, because there's not a creative number 10.
Mm-hmm.
There's not speedy wingers that are goal threats the way this roster is set up. You need Benteke on the field. So your plan B should be as close to your plan A as possible. And he seems, like you said, FootMob killed him. FootMob gave him a 6-1. And I think he had 3 shots. He had the most shots on DC United for the entire team in 22 minutes played. So what does that tell? That does, I mean, it's something that he's going to push himself for time. That's what Hopkins did a long time ago when Rooney was trying to put him out there. I think actually it was Losada who gave him his first start as he got fired. But he was a player that was taking his shots, and that's what we were looking for because no one was really creating. So I think players get it. You're not gonna score unless you shoot. Ted Kudipietro, all the young guys. Griffin Yao used to do it. Christian Fletcher, not so much. He's a little bit more, not necessarily conservative, but maybe patient and looking for. And that's probably coaches will probably like that a little bit better anyway, a little more dependable. But I want to. There's a question about him. I think it kind of fits right into this. Given Lasane's comments regarding Fletcher's consistency versus skill, I don't think he'll be a starter this spring. Maybe he will break in this summer. Thoughts? I guess was this in the post-game conference? I missed it.
I listened to it. I didn't quite catch this part, but maybe.
Okay, maybe it said somewhere else.
Maybe it was the pre-match. I think he did talk a little bit about him in the pre-match.
I think I think that there's when you go up and down the roster and you think about other potential spots. The first thing that I'm thinking of, Jared Stroud, shouldn't keep anybody off the field. He's fine. He's a good MLS player. But game one he looked like a world beater. Games 2 and 3 on the road, I've been not very impressed with him. So
it looks. I think there were some like, oh, this is new. This is not a player we've seen before. This looks refreshing. And then it's kind of been the same beat. Other teams may be prepared for it a little bit. Obviously also too, tougher games on the road than there are at home. I want to see maybe a little bit, this has been a tough stretch. I think this team had, and I think it's going to be a tough game against Miami. I think once we start getting into more of the rhythm, maybe.
I just wanted to see what comes next after that. St. Louis, Montreal, Columbus, Orlando are the next 4 games.
Well,
St. Louis is a game that I would like to see us at.
Mm-hmm.
None of the rest of them. And then Orlando is 0-1, so maybe them too.
Yeah, but again, they got Champions League, so
sure.
they're going to be coming off of that. Columbus is good. Columbus is going to be
that's going to be if we can manage to draw out of that, you should be dancing again. But I wanted to finish that point is that players like Jared Stroud should not keep you from getting players like Christian Fletcher in the game. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we need to talk about quickly is as we are moving towards the summer window and you have a Martin Rodriguez who has not played a minute on the field. He's healthy. He's in the 18. You're not playing him whatsoever. And you have Mahana Giazzi still, who is just not going to play. You cannot allow yourself to carry both of the, particularly if you can't find a landing spot for Jazz. You can't carry both of these dead weight roster spots, 2 international spots, major cap room, massive cap room in positions that you need cover. You cannot hold the bag on these 2 players for the entire season. You can't do it. So if there is an opportunity to get any relief with Martin Rodriguez, selling him back to Colo Colo, finding something else. He obviously is not in the picture. You're looking at players with no Major League Soccer, no professional experience that are getting in over him and playing minutes. Something is not right there. Not a surprise coming off of an ACL injury, very possible. But if you can get any salary cap relief from him and roster spot relief from an international spot, you do it. And Jaz, you got to buy him out. He doesn't want to be here. It's very clear that Troy is not going to put a player on the field who's not committed. He tried to get a move. It didn't pan out. Back to Sweden. It's going to suck to write that check and let him leave. But this is a huge anchor around the neck of a guy trying to build a club. And if you give him this out, then he's got a lot more money to work with, 2 international spots, and can go and try to make his team better in the interim, because it's you can't. It's just too much. It's like a big chunk of the roster from a salary cap perspective.
I think the biggest fear I have is, Yaz. I think you buy out. You obviously have one contract buyout. I agree with you on Mohamed Yaz. Buy him out. My biggest concern with trying to parlay or get rid of Martin Rodriguez is that the salary that we're paying Martin Rodriguez, probably he will not be able to get that going.
Right. He may be happy to sit and collect a check if he wants.
Yeah.
And then
leave, he might just be like, look, this is, I'm not going to get a bigger contract than this at this point. At this point, I'm really not with both those players. I think Yaz, buy out. I think you do that. If he's not going to be on the field, buy him out. With Martin Rodriguez, I think it's also, for me, I'm kind of like, well, he's still on the bench. I would rather be seeing Hopkins and Fletcher and all these young guys coming out than seeing him. If he sits on the bench for a year, again, what is this year about? This year is about doing these things right now. I think he will get some appearances. I think eventually the depth is going to run out, where maybe we get to the summer and suddenly it's like, hey, we're sitting pretty right now. We're, 5th, 6th in the East. Maybe we can make a run. Maybe you give him a couple runs and see what he can do. And then maybe look for something.
I think I just bought the hype. I think fans were thinking like, all right, he's going to come back and his hair's going to be on fire. And I just don't. That seems to be not what the deal is. And to your point, we want those young players on the field. And also to your point, he doesn't have a lot of value right now. I think you're right. I think we're just stuck on him.
Yeah, I think he will finish out the year, and then it'll be bye bye.
All right, then Jazz, get him out of here.
Jazz is the one problem, because he is technically on two more years of his contract.
Double. So how does that buyout work?
What's that?
How does that buyout work?
I think you got to pay that whole contract.
I don't care. It's not my money. Get rid of him. Yeah. I don't want him. Give me a left back.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I think Yaz will be the real first big test. I think for Mackay, as far as like cutting dead weight, because we saw this team carry dead weight year after year. Also too, maybe you go maybe we go the not registering route. That would be
the raffle.
The raffle. That would be interesting for sure. I think with him, he would much more like to find a new place to play. But
me too. I would love that for him as well. Yeah. Not much more to say about the game. I really at all. This game against Miami is really where the proof will be in the pudding. Let's talk about that. So Miami has was that its home opener too, or did they open at home the first game?
They opened at home against RSL on like that Wednesday that we.
You're right. So this is the second game at home here against Montreal, and Messi. First we heard Messi was injured in Champions Cup. Then afterwards we heard it was resting. Tata Martino said this was my plan all along. I had to rest him eventually. I'm resting him here. This is the game we picked, which tells me that he's going to play against Nashville on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. I think he plays against. I think he. I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't start, but I think he makes an appearance. I think there is
in Nashville or DC.
DC.
I think so too.
I think there is more pressure. I think they are actually going to look at these home games as these are our moments where we can rest them because there's 15, 16 other times that people can come see and play. And if we've got schedule congestion, that's the game we're going to choose. The road games, I mean, and you can argue about how Mickey Mouse this looks, but the road games are where if Messi is not there, it becomes a story that he is not. It's not a story when he's not in Miami. When he's not in Miami, maybe it's a little bit of a story, but it's not near the story when the one moment he goes out to a city and he's not playing, then it becomes a story. And I think the team
Yeah.
wants to avoid the Hong Kong situation, even if it wouldn't be as bad. They want to avoid that situation at
The
all
Hong Kong
costs.
debacle.
Yeah.
So in this game against Montreal, Busquets started on the bench. Luis Suarez started on the bench, and I think Jordi Alba came from the start. He might
Possible.
have
I'll have
gone
to go back and
90.
look.
He was good. Jordi Alba scored I think that was the second goal of the game. Leo Campana scored the first one, and then Jordi Alba equalized for like 5 seconds. It was a kind of a wild second half, back and forth. But the important thing to look at here is what happens against Nashville. What was the score in the first? Is it two legs, or are they in group play?
It's 2-2. So it's a two leg. So it was 2-2. Nashville didn't go for the head. They were rolling in that game. Schaffelberg scoring like the best goals of like the entire MLS week in CONCACAF, with a lot of 0-0 and kind of dreary type first leg games. And
And that
Nashville
was in
came out.
Tennessee. Also, the first leg was in Tennessee.
That was in Nashville too. So two away goals for Miami that really Nashville could ill afford to give up. But I used the Thanos meme. You should have gone for the head. They really should have buried that team, and they left it hanging. And when you got Messi and you got a huge amount of talent, doesn't matter how bad it looks, they can turn it on a head. And that's something for DC to consider. I think you watch that Nashville game. Miami did not look good, I would say, for about 80 minutes of that game. But I think they kind of are. They're playing a very game where I think they know this is what we have to do, and they make adjustments very quickly, and they've got the talent to do it. They're still an incredibly talented team.
It is wild the difference in danger and also in confidence that they had when they had almost all of their stars on the field. In that last 15 minutes, they looked exceedingly dangerous. So I think he probably plays. I bet he starts in Nashville, plays 60 minutes depending on the game. He might even go longer than that, to be honest with you. He might go most of the game because
I think that'll definitely be a game state type of thing. If they are up 2-0 or up 3-0, by halftime, I think they will look to maybe try to bury that game early. You get a couple goals, you kind of bury that game early.
as opposed to that, was that the RSL game where they were up 3-0 at halftime, or was that the second game of the season?
I think that was the Orlando game. Is probably what
it was the Orlando game, and I was like, you're worried about fixture congestion, or you're worried about fixture congestion in these tired legs, and you're keeping all these stars through like the middle of the second half. Like, all right, well, no one's gonna cry for you later, and I'm not. No one is crying. I think that's still the case. So if you're a DC United fan, you're probably gonna see some of Messi, and I hope we don't see too much of it, because I think that their offense is a lot more dangerous. They are running downhill when they have all those players on the field. Lucas Bartlett, rest up, get in the cold spa, make sure you're ready to go.
Yeah, I was nervous about them. I was like, oh my gosh, we have Matej Akambone. I think that might wreck his confidence to have to go up against Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba and Busquets.
Good luck.
But yeah, so.
But also to think here, guys, we did not 5 points were not in our brains coming into Inter. I think we both talked about it. That was not on deck. So if this goes badly, it's entirely possible it does. If it does, that's okay. Roll it over. You got St. Louis next week, and that's a super winnable game. And you don't have any all time greats, or just like you're not going to have
game too. St. Louis. It's not exactly an easy road game. So
it isn't. But also this DC game might feel like a road game too, to be honest. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
We got some more questions when I work through those as well.
Sure.
Frank Itzo says DC United maybe got lucky on some of the Cincinnati chances late in the game, but how much credit did the defense deserve for shutting down, blocking, and intercepting the ball to prevent Cincinnati's attack?
I mean, they're the reason this game. I thought they did, particularly I would say about the first most of the first half, and then I think a little bit. I think Lassane talks about this. They did kind of lose their shape a little bit. I think their defensive structure was really good. I think they were able to transition those chances. I think the issue. I mean, they got it was great. They got out with a point. The issue with this team is always going to be they're still going to leak goals. There's still going to be goals to opportunities. But when they have those chances, right now the system is getting them points right now. The way Lassane has this team set up is what's getting them the points. The individual performances, particularly in this game, were not there. The individual performances for I would say 80 minutes of Portland were not there. Everything was there against New England. They played excellent in a lot of states, but they also missed a lot of chances too. So this is what this team is going to be playing a little bit on a knife's edge, particularly defensively. So, and if they don't convert their chances, this game could have easily gone, could be 2-0 Cincinnati, and we're maybe having a little less positive things to say.
Coming to the Miami game. Mario Aguilar, who I believe is a Patreon subscriber because I just mailed him out some stickers today. I'm not seeing the initial hype around Peltola. What did you expect from him going into the season, and has he lived up to those expectations? Well, we just said that he leads the league in tackles, so that's been good. Ted, you're the one who wrote the article. What were you expecting, and has he been sort of what you thought he was going to be?
I mean, I was expecting maybe the defensive play to be there. I'm really not sure when you're talking about a number 6. I mean, what are you expecting to see? I don't know. I'm just like I hear that, and I'm just like, are people just like not? Are people just kind of watching the front three of the game? And I'm not I mean, I'm saying I'm sure you're watching the games, but I don't know. I feel like I just feel like the tackles, the work rate, sort of in the defensive third. I think he has showcased some sort of light dribbling moves. He's not going to be a Andy Nahar where he's going to deke 3 guys, but what he's going to do is make a light touch, push the ball into space. I think we've seen a lot of those types of smart plays. So I think he's been excellent, to be honest.
You struggle when you are a number 6 designated player, even though it's a young DP, and sort of being touted as the one major signing of the offseason, which it was. And he's understated. We talked about sort of his game is you're not going to see him really just, break lines over and over again. He's not going to be crushing people in the tackle. He's just going to win the ball back and then move it back along. And that's kind of what you need. But I can understand people sort of not seeing that, and he's not standing out unless you're really looking for him. Arnolito says, I think it's the way he plays. He looks kind of lazy. That's been a lot of players sort of like that's happened to a lot of players over the eras. And I think too, I talked about it the first 2 games, and I thought it improved in this game is that he's a slow to react to pressure. And it didn't bite him in the back too many times. He was able to move the ball around, but it always seemed like it was just a little bit late than he should have recognized it. But I thought in Cincinnati, he did really well with that. So getting better again. He has had some time off before.
And I think maybe there's a miss of sort of expectations. The fact that you look at him as the number signing, so you're expecting like this completed product. And I don't think that's what he is right now. I think he is a guy who is incredibly talented. I think the way I look at him is I look at, what am I seeing from him that I also see from Russell Canals? And I see a lot of similar things, a lot of really good things. And I look at the fact that he is 22. So it's something that you expect to grow. You expect to get better as he gets more comfortable in the league, as he gets more comfortable reading different teams. When Cincy come back to play against DC, he will have some familiarity. He will know maybe areas to attack. And that's part of what a smart player does. So I think maybe what you're seeing, slow to react, things like that, is also because he doesn't know the league. He's never played outside of Finland.
Yep.
And those things come with familiarity, especially as a number 6, where your job is to sort of anticipate those types of plays to prevent pressure and prevent opportunities. So I think that's going to come as he learns the league.
I wanted to also spotlight. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but in the post-game article from Steve Goff, we were talking about Benteke not being available and being injured. So apparently from this article, he says Benteke did not travel on the team charter Saturday, but to the surprise of everyone, he bought his own ticket and was waiting on the team bus Sunday when the players boarded before the match. That rules. That's very, very cool of him to do. I don't know if he would have done that if the game was in Vancouver, but I'm glad that he was able to hop over to Ohio and surprise his team, give him a little bit of a lift. That is a veteran. I mean, that is not what you expect out of anybody, much less your superstar designated player who could be anywhere doing anything. So that rules.
Buy or sell this. Benteke has been the best designated player for DC United.
Buy.
I would
So
go
fast.
buy. I
Smash.
think Luciano Emilio technically was one of the club's first DPs. He did not. He was good, not on a DP contract, and then he got a DP contract, and he wasn't very good. But he would maybe be the other argument there. Again,
Not
Acosta, not a
Marcelo
DP
Gallardo.
that has been pointed out for us, not a DP for DC United. But honestly, Benteke. I mean, Wayne Rooney obviously had like a good half season. 2019 was kind of it was good. He was certainly there. I think what we're seeing from Benteke, again, you talk about that's something I didn't know about him and maybe we didn't see it broadcasted much last year. Maybe the situation with Rooney, maybe didn't feel engaged. And so,
Maybe he needs a vibes coach. Maybe
yeah,
Benteke like thrives in like a positive atmosphere, which to
if
be honest with you,
if this wasn't here last year, and then you've gotten that out of Benteke, who's on the last year of his contract, like holy crap, we might have like an incredibly good coach in Lesane that he's been able to do that. Because Benteke could have very easily been like, this is my last year. I'm out here. I'm gonna out here play, and sign my contract. But I'll be gone. I know I'll be gone. But he seems like he's making a case how he wants to stay. So
I'm gonna go to Miami since I can't be here for the game. I'm gonna go get away for a weekend. That's easier to do. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if you look back to quotes that Pablo got out of him when he got here, talking about how he wanted to, for the first time, make a move that he wanted to make, and he sort of talked with like a very nuanced and complicated, not necessarily complicated, but like emotionally adept way of knowing himself and knowing what's good for him and what he wanted. So it would not surprise me in the very least if he found, for maybe the first time in his career, I don't have the full coaching docket of teams coaches been coached by, but I don't think maybe hasn't had a Troy, a coach that's sort of set up for like that. Not to say not like from a tactical standpoint, but from a warm and fuzzy build the camaraderie and that style. I don't know.
I think Jurgen Klopp would maybe like a word, but
How long was he at Liverpool?
He was at Liverpool for I think a year or so. I can't remember how long it was.
And then he was gone. So apparently it did not vibe.
Did not vibe. But also I think it's an incredibly tough team to stay at the top. And that was a team too that was he was early on sort of in the rebuilding process for Liverpool. And then, they've developed, it takes some time to kind of develop all of that. But
maybe Klopp's gotten some lessons from New Mexico United. Maybe he watched some games, saw him on the sideline.
Maybe entirely possible.
Maybe. Kevin Case on Twitter says, we kind of got into this, but I want to make sure if you get us a question, we're going to read it.
Yeah.
Kevin Case Case closed on Twitter says, how many games does Pirani get to find his form before Troy stops starting him? Alternatively, how many games should he get? So we kind of talked about this. There's not really a ready-made replacement. There's not really a hurry to get rid of him. He's on decent money, but it's not hamstringing you like other players that are not playing right now that are costing us a lot more money. I think he gets to the summer. I think you keep playing him, maybe give him a rest here or there if he's showing fatigue. But you just keep on rolling him out there and see if you can figure out what he needs. Because
I totally missed the name. I was about to wait for you to stop. I totally missed the name of which player you were talking about. Pirani. I kind of guessed it, but
yeah. All of our questions mostly are about Pirani sucking right now, which is, again,
and for the first time, like the color commentator was ripping.
She was ripping him apart. Horrible. He if he goes back and watches that, he's gonna be a little bit like, hey, we all were bad. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. Brendan Cartwright, friend of the show and best tweeter on the planet, says, has Tyler Miller moved in the Mohanajaz Martin Rodriguez zone in terms of the front offices? Can't wait to move this guy rankings. I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah.
Albano is also on such a low salary that his and Miller's salary combined makes a normal number one. So I don't think that's really. I think this club will be like, sweet, we got the best goal tandem potentially in the league. We got a great 1 and 2.
I think we'll see. I think we'll see Miller get a run out at some point this year. I think you'll see him get a game or two. I mean, obviously, I think he's injured. Like you said, his injury situation is pretty bad. He probably won't be back for a little while. I think Bono. I think like you talked about. I mean, distribution. I mean, I think also it seems to me, the game plan was play the ball up top, try to win it. If you don't, then just be there to pressure, was kind of the game plan. So I think that maybe is contributing a little bit. I think if you see some more quick distribution, maybe some different type of ideas, maybe it gets a little better. Maybe his numbers shoot up when you've got Christian Benteke winning those. You basically just got to get it up to him. So worth watching. I think from you have a fair point of distribution. I also think it's an overrated stat for a goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper's number one job is to stop the ball from going in the back of the net. So
And he's pretty good at that.
yeah, very good at that. That for DC questions.
That's it. Go ahead.
I would say you did have one thing you wanted to drop about. By the way, if you haven't been listening, we had a guest on the show. Go ahead.
Laurel Failer was the FC Cincinnati beat. She covers the FC for Queen City Press, formerly of the Athletic. Found out that she got her credential banned, suspended for 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
Right after she was on our show. I can promise you, it was not about being on our show. That was not the reason why. She's been, pretty quiet about what's going on about that. I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's very cool to see. It's horrible to see that this is a pattern here in the league, where the league cannot tolerate negative press. They don't understand that without supporter run or privately financed journalism, there's going to be no one talking about your league at all. It's just not going to happen. There's, I think, there's one outlet in Cincinnati that covers it. That's not sort of supported in that way. Cincy Soccer Talk is a privately funded organization. They do their own thing. But if you ice these groups out, you're going to realize how little you matter to your town. It's the noise will diminish greatly around it. That's known. When we talked about that, about our situation. But all the cool thing is the official radio station, like the flagship station of FC Cincinnati, has said that they will refuse to speak about the club until she is reinstated. So I love the solidarity there,
Yep.
but also, you and I are both now part of North American Soccer Reporters. You have seen a bunch of people league wide have this happen to them, where front offices and PR staffs have cracked down on access. And, I think we'll see in the long run what it does to league interest, but it's certainly not going to help grow it. Messi's not going to be here forever. And particularly if Apple TV is not going to produce any more content, and they're just going to ride the Messi train until it falls off. Good luck, man. I think this is a time to embrace additional voices, that even if it's a little messy and you can't control it, it's the only way to really provide that sort of spark for growth. Because
and you brought up the Messi, and you brought up Apple TV, and I just wanted to say the content. It's bad. I actually noticed today, like the MLS. You remember they used to do like a weekly review show? That's gone. That they haven't done a new one for that. I noticed I got really frustrated. MLS Wrap Up doesn't actually wrap up all of the games. They
just one day of the week.
They did not talk about. Well, they don't even wrap up all the games on Saturday. They did not talk at all about the DC Portland game on the last show. And it's a late finish. I remember when this first came out. First week was great, and we're like, "Hey, this is only going to get better." And it has been incredibly sad and incredibly disappointing. It's like this league signed Messi, and it's like we have to cash in on Messi, so we got to cut costs down to like maximize that profit. I think once Messi's gone, I think maybe you see some of that stuff tick up, or Apple loses interest, and we're back to hunting around ESPN or some other channels. We'll see what they do. Is still have the quote unquote the Drive to Survive for MLS version documentary coming out. Maybe that wins some people back, but I mean overall,
isn't that going to be focused on Messi?
It's supposed to be league wide. It's supposed to be a league wide show. So again, the Drive to Survive doesn't do, they kind of follow if they are given. I think the big question is if they are given the access, giving them the access, allowing some of these, and we're seeing how they don't like stories that are being written about it. They're being told to talk in again. The whole story about the people who work for MLS are not allowed to talk about
this. People may not know about this if they're not super online.
Yeah, the replacement referees.
Talk about it.
They've been bad. I mean, they've been bad. And if you are just mad about the fact that your defender was an idiot and went into the press box and PRSA released a statement supporting the referees, and you're just decided you're mad and you want to, wax poetic about how good the replacement refs are because you're just mad about that, then go ahead. Be that person. I think you're an idiot and I don't like you. That's just straight up. I hate it. I think it's awful. And the referees have been bad. This game, particularly, I thought that there was some losing control. There have been several moments where it just looks like the players are just kind of like, there's not really good match control in any of these games. And
None.
it's just,
I had read, and I don't know how true it is. They were saying how it appeared that some of these referees were calling not by radio, but like the pro officials, particularly with stuff with instant replay, where they're almost being directed by other referees off the field, because to your point, there is no crowd control. These players also know there's a lack of respect for these folks at all. They're just like, you're dumb. This offside is going to be overturned. Just go to the stupid videotape. You're wrong again. And they're trying to do their best to like control things, but the wheels are off the wagon. It's not good. But the thing I wanted to make sure you comment on was that I thought you were going with was the fact that Apple TV, because again, this is all very centralized, got a league-wide memo saying, "Hey, stop talking about the referees. You can mention it in passing in the pregame, but
you can talk about how a call is bad and how it's a mistake, but you can't
allude to the fact that why that might be the case."
Yeah, and it's to me that's kind of like I don't know. Yeah, it's a story. It's certainly a story that should be out there. It's certainly something out there. I get it. I know why they're doing it. Like, it's controlled by the league at this point. I think there's plenty of other media talking about how bad this situation is. It does not look there. I am shocked about how long this is taking. I am very surprised. I don't think there has been a moment. There was one potential moment in the Atlanta New England game where the referee blew the whistle for a PK right as Atlanta was scoring. If that PK had gotten saved and that game had flipped on its head and gone the other direction, that could have been a moment. There have been very close calls. There was an overturned yellow card. There hasn't been, I think, something so horribly awful, other than, I guess, the missed throw in. But even that's a little bit like, I'm talking about, there is something that is that there's something that actually turns a game where it happens on the play. I think that's what you need, because even the throwing situation, you can say, well, SKC didn't do a good job defending. Like, yeah, moments like that are going to happen. I think like a moment like that where literally a goal is taken away and the penalty is saved, that would have been just a catastrophic type of moment. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen if the league does not. They are playing with fire every single weekend that they do not bring these referees back in. There's going to be some type of major calamitous moment that's going to get coverage everywhere about how bad it is. So,
and as it came out today, Pro and PRSA are not involved in any negotiations, no meeting planned with the league. So that's a bad sign. You usually want people talking to each other across the table if you're going to find progress. And I think Roach made this point on Twitter. He's like, the problem here, you normally ice people out to get them back to the table, but a lot of these people have day jobs and they want to be refereeing, but they're not on bread lines right now.
Yeah,
they're able to live their life pretty much, maybe not exactly the same as before, but this is not the same as a normal lockout. So it could go on for a while.
Yeah, and I think Pro was like, well, we're going to make the deal worse, which again, I don't know how that violates.
Good luck with that.
About negotiating. It's going to get. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a situation that's going to get worse. I think Pro is seeing. I think finally, the problem it was in 2014 is I'm not sure how visible it was that there really was a difference. This time, I think you could absolutely tell there is a difference, and there is a profound lack of respect from the officials and the players. They don't have control of this game, and there's going to be, I think if this continues, there's going to be a flashpoint moment. Whether that actually, I mean, MLS seems very hinged on the fact that, they are just going to keep full steam ahead. I mean, talk about just from PR and everything, it's just been an absolute
We
disaster.
wish nothing upon Messi, but imagine Messi getting injured in a situation where referees did not protect the player in the way that they normally would. Imagine the worldwide condemnation that would come MLS's way. It would be any positive that they would have gotten from Messi coming would be wiped out in one weekend. So hopefully it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I don't want that to happen either. So we've gone a little long on DC United, but that's because, there's a lot to talk about. The Spirit are finally getting underway. Right tonight, in fact, as we're taping, they had a really, really cool open house event, something I wish DC United would do, where they had open training in the stadium, unveiled new merch, had players signing, which we're about to talk about, had availability for the media with all the folks, because they've been in preseason in California and in Florida until very recently. So this was like their first chance to sort of be in front of their fans. And it looked really cool. I wish I could have gone. It seemed like it was a really good event. And again, DC United, take notes.
Yeah. Don't go to certain places that maybe you shouldn't go, or that will have
Maybe
impact
don't
on
do
your
that.
fans. Saturday starts Sunday. They'll be on the road against Seattle. I was going to look at that. They do have a local rights deal. So something again that
Monumental, which has broadcast the team before, I think maybe 3 years ago but now it's also available on streaming. NWSL Plus is free, so there's a good chance to see most of the games all year round. There might be a couple that you may need some shoulder subscriptions for, but for the most, because they're not covering every single home game. Monumental has most of them, but
yeah, well, they're covering I think all the games that are not on CBS, Amazon Prime, ESPN, like all the games that are sort of on this exclusive networks. The games that are on would be on the NWSL Plus service. So you don't have to. That service is free for now, but I
it's
think
free for a year.
eventually, for a year. I think eventually it's gonna go up a little bit. There's something gonna be a price attached to it. But some news dropped from Mark Krikorian is that they will apparently be signing a player.
An international player,
international
specified.
International player comes out. So interested with that. Not much news from a roster perspective. They did announce their rookie contracts. Bethune will have a 3-year contract with an option for 25. Male Hirschfeld, 3 years. Windsor, 3 years. Morris is on a 1-year contract. Courtney Bro is on a 3-year contract. Stainbrook, a 3-year contract. So they're with the exception of Morris, most of the players from their draft. And then I think it was Pajil, one of their draft picks, apparently still recovering from an injury. So
She had a knee injury in the college season, I believe.
Yeah.
Corey Bethune is the player that you are looking to most hopefully contribute quickly with the loss of Ashley Sanchez.
She'll get a run out for sure.
We have had no preseason availability. We've not seen any games. We've not seen any write-ups. We don't know any scores that have occurred. So if you thought making NWSL predictions was hard before, it is solely based on roster moves. And if you're looking at the Spirit roster right now and saying, are we better than we were last year when we did not make the playoffs? Hard to say yes.
Yeah.
Hard to say yes. Casey Kruger, although she played, we'll talk about what happened on the weekend against Brazil. It's great to have her there. I think that strengthens the right back position. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
It's certainly going to be a team. I mean, this is like a rebuild question mark for this team. Is this team rebuilding? Are they not? I think it's hard. It's hard to imagine we'd be here. I mean, I've been thinking about trying to write a preview for this team, which I think is going to be difficult. I'm just like, I mean, it's hard to believe we would be here after 2021. I think we all thought that was the beginning of something like really special for this team. And the fact that we're kind of here almost talking about whether this is a rebuild or not, I think they'll be good. I think this team is maybe rough to start the year, but I think they're going to try to target that summer window. Coach is going to be back. Maybe there are going to be some players from his teams that are going to want to come. Yeah. They're going to get some signings in.
I want to make sure.
I would say.
Mm-hmm. I was just say I talked about the additions, and to not say that you just hired Jonathan Duraldez from Barcelona is probably a major injustice to what they're operating on. So I want to make sure I remedy that. The new coaching staff, highly desired coaching staff, probably one of the most sought after coaches in the women's game after Emma Hayes has already taken a job for the U.S. national team. He was probably the number one name on everyone's lips. So we'll see. Is this international player that's been teased going to be a player from Barcelona, a player of major stature and caliber? I think that's the right move. This team needs to sort of reinvigorate their intention with their players. Ashley Hatch got a 3-year contract extension. Trinity Rodman's still here. Andy Sullivan's still here. Aubrey Bledsoe is still here. I'm sorry, Aubrey Kingsbury is still here. Yeah. But, for whatever reason, I think if you're looking at this club and saying, yeah, but what did Gotham do this offseason?
Signed everybody from free agency.
Signed everybody. What, how's San Diego looking this year? Like there are new teams on the block, and you got to stay relevant. You got to stay current. And all you've done so far from that perspective is trade your number 10 or your number 2, Ashley Sanchez to North Carolina, who I bet is going to crush down there. And, it's all to be done. So make a big splash. And then I think the vibes were going to be returning back in a positive way.
Pay a transfer fee. Go out. I mean,
you did for your transfer. You were gonna spend $500,000 just to get your coach early out of Barcelona. Mm-hmm. Like spend. You're right. The money is there. Clearly, go spend it on
I
players.
mean, this is something that's been talked about. Transfer fees have not been a big thing. I think there was a record broken for a transfer fee. I think BFC did it
Yep.
for a player. They broke a record as far as a paying out a transfer fee. That's the direction. That's the direction that I guarantee the women's game is going to start to go. There's going to be a lot more of those. It's probably going to rise very quickly. You have talked a big game about how you want to make this team. That's some things you got to go out and do.
To follow that up, that's Rachel Kundanaji, who played for Real Madrid or Madrid. The max fee in the world for a women's player is $787,000 in February. So, like I said, I think they were going to pay $500,000 to get Geraldes out of his contract. So the money's in those couch cushions. This is a chance flex on some, because I don't think in NWSL, I'm not sure transfer fees are factored in the way they are in MLS, amortized over the length of the contract. I'm not sure, but if they're not, that's just money to spend. And they're also
I'd be willing to bet
expanding.
they would be, but
They're also
yes.
expanding the number of international roster spots to 7 this year.
Yeah.
Which teams did not. I mean, I guess maybe they did know, but it wasn't public information until. And we'll look at the Spirits roster to break that down. I know that we got some room in that capacity as well. Yeah. I think they may only have 4 internationals, but I won't try to count them now as we're talking.
As we're talking on this show.
That's a high wire act that I don't want to do.
We'll definitely have some more content coming up. The Spirit previews, reviews. We're going to really try our best to keep that content train going for you guys, and you guys have been really liking the written stuff, so we're definitely going to keep that up. Let's talk a little bit. I want to touch a little bit on the Women's Gold Cup. Obviously, from a Spirit perspective, Trinity Rodman, of course, winning the Women's Gold Cup. Thought she played well. She started most of the games. She looked good. I wouldn't say this was like a pretty or dominant performance. I think from the U.S. women, the Colombia game was probably their best moment, where they looked like they were themselves, so to speak, their dominant selves. The Canada game was an absolute mess, and this whole tournament, I think I've been annoyed. For me, I've been annoyed because the games have all been like at 10 p.m., which is annoying on the East Coast. I think it's great that this tournament exists. I think it should continue as kind of a way to bring in other, bring in your South American teams. Bring in. I think there needs to be more tournaments like this. I think the ultimate goal, I think, for FIFA should be to turn the Olympics back into a youth product, just like the men, and actually have enough capacity where you have these these confederational tournaments and other things, that you don't need the Olympics anymore, because the Olympics has shown 18 players get called into that group, so it's a short roster. They've shown no signs of actually trying to increase that. So again, I think it would be something to look at. Maybe hopefully that might shift to sort of how it is on the men's side. But I think overall, I think they got the win. I think that's probably the most important thing right now. Get some confidence back after the World Cup. I thought the Brazil game, I don't think either team played necessarily that well. I think the U.S. did a good job shutting him down. Nice goal from Lindsey Horan. They tried to play Rose Lavelle as a winger, which is never going to work. And I don't know if it's like a lot of experimenting. We'll see when Emma Hayes gets here. Maybe she has some different ideas. I think they use this tournament a lot as kind of a test bed for some ideas maybe they want to try at the Olympics. So I don't think the Olympics, winning the Olympic gold again, is the goal here. I think the goal here is to try to build a foundation at the Olympics. Win it. If you win it, great. But if you're at least competitive, and then the real goal here is the World Cup is seemingly going to go to the U.S. and Mexico. That's your moment where I think you really want to have the strongest team out there. So,
yep.
So,
before we wrap up, I want to make sure I throw some spotlight on Loudoun United getting a extremely unlikely road point against San Antonio FC. They go down 1-0 on a pretty stupid mistake by their right back, whose name is unfortunately escaping me right now.
Go listen to Next in Line for
make sure you listen to Next in Line. I'm going to watch all these games though. That is my promise. That is my guaranteed promise. They are able to level the score right afterwards, but then unfortunately, former DC United player Cristiano Francois gets baited into a headbutt and gets red carded in the 30th minute. They are down a man for 60 minutes against San Antonio, who's one of the best teams in USL. Did they win the championship last year or the year before?
I think a year before, because I know Phoenix won it. It was Phoenix and Charleston in the
but
final.
but a perennially hyper competitive team with Juan Agudelo as a starting forward, and they were able to. Florian Valot scores an equalizer in stoppage time on the road. If you have watched or paid any attention to Loudoun United over the last entire duration of their existence, gaining a point from behind in stoppage time on the road against elite opponents, not on the bingo card, not at all. So really, really great for them to get that point, sort of just christen the beginning of a team that's trying to turn things around. They are at home on Saturday against North Carolina FC. If you don't have tickets to go see the Miami game and you want to see soccer this weekend, I encourage you to go check that out. They appear to be the business, and it's great to have yet another competitive team to watch in the region. And they actually will be in the Open Cup, so there's that.
Yeah, there's that. They will be the only DMV. Well, I guess Nova is. I don't know. Christos maybe has a. They're Baltimore. I'll say maybe Nova FC. Were they in the Open Cup? Usually, I know they're a
Very
tournament.
early stage, the first, probably like the first or second round.
They might not, but they might not have qualified. I think they didn't qualify this time around. So yeah, really the only DMV resident, and then obviously the Richmond Kickers will be in it, but the only DMV resident in the Open Cup will be Loudoun United this year for reasons that are dumb and stupid, and we hate them. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, patreon.com/RQRefugees. We will probably have another Patreon show. We'll have another preview show we'll be running out. So be on the lookouts for that. We'll have more content on the website, rfqrefugees.com. Definitely check that out. And we are going to work our best to preview the Spirit season, review the Spirit game. We'll definitely do the blitzes, all that type of stuff. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.